Okay, let's get started. So, today I'm going to share when to expect career changes. There are specific times during the year where career changes are just going to be more top of mind. And that could look like a lot of different things. It could look like getting a promotion, getting a new job. It could look like starting your own business, a side hustle, different ways of working, getting a new supervisor, working with a new team. And then I also wanted to share more about what a Saturn return is, and then specifically, what does it mean for all of us that when Saturn moves into a new sign? Because Saturn will move into Aries this Saturday on the 24th. And that brings about a lot of collective and individual changes. All right, so we're going to begin with a quick grounding meditation because we're coming from many different places and spaces, different times of day. So let us all drop in intentionally to this digital space that we're all sharing. I'm going to share a little bit about my story for those who haven't met me before, and this is the first time you're joining one of my free career astrology workshops. Welcome, welcome. And then I'm going to talk about some specific dates as well as Saturn and Saturn return. Okay, so let's get started with that grounding meditation. I want you to root down through your sit bones through your feet and starting to close your eyes here and just focus on your inhales and your exhales. Slowing the breath down. Because when you slow the breath down, you signal to your mind, to your body that you are safe, and everything else will slow down as well. And we'll begin with 3 cleansing breaths. As you empty the breath out, take a deep breath in through the nose and an audible exhale out through the mouth. Take a deep breath in through the nose and an audible exhale out through the mouth. And one more deep breath in through the nose. Hold it at the top. Can you sip in a little bit more air? And let it go out through the mouth. Seal the lips, start to breathe in and out through the nose, and feel the breath move through the back of the throat, down the length of the spine, and into the belly. I invite you to set an intention for our time together today. Allow this intention to organically come into your consciousness. And my invitation for you is to be open and curious, knowing that the insights that I share with you today are exactly what you need to hear, and that you yourself will also come to some conclusions and some aha moments yourself by just being in this space. Empty the breath out. Take a deep breath in through the nose and an audible exhale out through the mouth. And as you're ready, gently open your eyes, coming back to the present moment and the present space. All right, so make sure that you have a place where you can journal and take notes. And don't worry, I'll also send the replay out as well. And oh, another comment in here. Just wanted to say, rereading the first few paragraphs of my career astrology report once again, and amazed by how much the insights resonate. Thank you, thank you. I wrote those myself. I launched yoursaturn.com like just before like ChatGPT and all those things. And I always have to say like I wrote it myself, guys. I wrote it myself. Okay, let's get started. So I want to share a little bit more about my story and the origin of the website. So my name is Alice and I am a career astrologer. And before becoming a career astrologer, I was in consumer marketing for many years. I had an e-commerce company and I've always been very entrepreneurial. And when I experienced my Saturn return, which I'll share more about, I went through like a big existential crisis and also a spiritual awakening. And that happened in my late 20s, early 30s. And it was a really profound time of change because, on paper, my job was like really great. It was like moving very quickly and it just didn't feel right anymore. And I want to know, tell me in the chat if you are feeling that right now or you have felt like that. Like you've gone through the motions, everything is fine, but something feels amiss, something feels off within, and you just have more questions than answers. And a Saturn return like really, really gets things clear for you. It lasts for a couple years, and so I went through that experience of just like, what am I doing with my life? Like I don't know, like what's happening, and it was just really, really frustrating. And it was extra frustrating because, like many, I really aligned my identity with my job for better or for worse. And when I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore, everything came crashing down. And things have to, kind of get messy. They need to break down so that a new beginning can happen. There's like more clarity because, you know, can't just be building multiple things at the same time. You can, but not in the term of like going through your Saturn return. Like there needs to be kind of like a breakdown, an awareness, a recognition that things need to change so that you can build things up again. Kind of like a major renovation and rehaul of your home. And I actually started this business 6 years ago in Washington, D.C. I'm based in LA now, so it's super normal that I'm an astrologer and one like focused on career. But it was really, really new and novel back in 2019. And I just felt like I wanted to share everything I learned from like yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and astrology with others to help them on their purpose, like path to purpose and what to do like for a career or to start a business, whatever that looks like. And that was feels like a lifetime ago. And then a couple years ago, I felt pushed to really focus on astrology and really to like create this website, yoursaturn.com. And every single time I've made a decision for this business, it has been one that is really about intuition. And starting this business initially in 2019 and then creating yoursaturn.com, it was such big leaps of faith for me. And one of the lessons I'm learning in this lifetime and what we've all been learning the last few years is to trust your gut, to trust your intuition, that innate knowing, that innate wisdom, and really learning to discern what does your intuition sound like and what is like just like your monkey mind and stress and like other people's opinions coming in. And for myself, like I've always found that even though my intuition doesn't make sense in the moment, it always makes sense later on. And my intuition was so loud in 2023. It was like, make this website. And I was like, I'm a very practical person. I have a lot of Capricorn placements. So those with intermediary like knowledge of astrology, it's like it can be serious, very business and career oriented and very logic based. And I was like, well, I don't know if there's product market fit. Um, everyone always says that before you automate something and build something, like test it out, make sure people want it. And at that point, I had not even created these free like reports like for people. I was just like, I have this idea. My intuition is telling me to build it. I've never really built a tech product myself. And to kind of get that going, getting the right team of engineers and creating it was just like such an incredible learning process and really taught me that you don't need to know 5 or 10 steps in the future. You just need to know the next step. So, if any of you right now on this call have felt that intuitive hit to start something that seems kind of crazy, or your intuition is telling you to move somewhere, to quit a job, and you're just like, I don't know, this like it doesn't make any sense, but I just feel so called to do this. I want you to take a moment to pause today, this week, to really sit in that feeling because when we are living an intuition led life, there's so many more opportunities and ways to expand and grow and synchronicities that can happen for us. And yoursaturn.com is an example of that. This is why we are in this workshop today. This is why I can share the knowledge, the insights from astrology with you to help you navigate wherever you are in your career. So if you also want to share, if you've been feeling this in the chat, I would love to know. I understand that a lot of people are probably feeling like this. And I think that when we share our stories and our vulnerabilities where we are, we recognize that we're more similar than different. And we all are going through something at any given moment. All right. Looking at the comments here. Yes, lots of different things. And also, I'm not going to be talking about a nodal return this year, but I'll just mention it really, really quickly. Your nodal return, which happens every 18, 19 years. So, for most people, like who are joining the call, if you're around like 36, 37, 38, you have just experienced it or are going through it right now. It's almost like a mini Saturn return, like a time that's just like, oh, like, am I on the right path? And the universe really push you to be on the right path as well. Okay. Um, Chinar, let me know if I pronounce your name
Yeah,
correctly.
you're right.
Oh, thank you. Chinar,
Yeah.
28 plus years in the corporate world and am at crossroads now for the next step in my journey. My intuition is guiding me towards a couple things, and what you're sharing is exactly how I feel. I'm feeling the push pull. Yes, so many people are experiencing this, and so many women are experiencing this. We're entering a stage where there's going to be a different way of doing things. And especially with almost 30 years of being in the corporate world, like I would say you're probably experiencing like your second Saturn return and a lot of different
Mm.
things right now. And it's a beautiful opportunity to create legacy. Okay, so let's start off with like when we'll expect career changes. A lot of things have already happened because we're almost halfway through the year, but there's some really important dates I wanted to focus on. But specifically, new moons, full moons, and then there's a career glow up portal. That's something I coined that's happening at the end of August into September. That's going to be a major moment, kind of like the one we had last year that was in like June, July. That'll give you an opportunity to really accelerate the growth in your career or your business. So, new moons are times where we plant new seeds. This is a wonderful time to start a new job, start a new project. Full moons are culminations, releases, and celebrations. And a lot of times people will leave their jobs during a full moon. So, every time someone has and shares like a new moon reading or a full moon reading, it affects people at the collective level and the individual level. That is true for every single like astrological like transit or kind of like what's happening in the stars. And there are going to be very specific new moons and full moons for you and for your birth chart that will say, okay, this is the time where you're going to welcome in new money. I mean, not new money, but money, a new job or more recognition in your career. And those are very specific to you. But then there's general ones that will affect us as a collective too, that I'll focus on. So for this session today, there's a lot of information already. I'm not going to cover like the specific ones for you. I'll actually be doing that in my membership next week. So I'll share more about my membership. It's going to be like a part two for this, like later on. And then we have this career glow portal that's going to be really great and powerful for everyone. So, the specific dates I want everyone to focus on, there's going to be a full moon in Capricorn on July 10th. And again, full moons are about releases, and Capricorn is the sign of career. So, there's going to be something around this time for everyone. They're going to recognize things that they're going to change in their career. Now, it could look like changing careers, leaving a job. It could look like celebrating something that you have started in your career or in your business because full moons are about release and they're about celebration. Now, that's on July 10th. And again, there are specific dates, specific new moons and full moons for your individual birth chart that will say, like, oh, there's an opportunity for money, for like, let's say, like, a new job, a new working situation, like a like situation could be like working remote or like going back into the office or getting like a new team or new structure, like those types of things, as well as like new opportunities for you. But again, just focusing on the collective things for this workshop. And then we have this career glow portal happening pretty much like all of September of this year. We have back-to-back new moons in Virgos. New moons are fresh starts and new beginnings, and in Virgo it's a sign of kind of how we live our day to day, our rituals, our routines, how we get work done, like operations, as well as wellness. So this also involves like coworkers. It could be new systems and processes at work. It could look like kind of like restructuring, like a reorg. It could look like getting a new boss. And it could also be a huge recognition of more work-life balance because anyone who's a Virgo in the room right now, and if you look at your free career astrology report at the chart properties, if you see Virgo showing up, kind of like more than 3 times, or even for your sun, your moon, your rising, or your north or south node, you burn out easily because you're always working, working, working. And so this portal is going to be one where you will recognize how to find better work life balance. And I believe that when we understand kind of like what's ahead, these transits and these like changes, it helps us better prepare and feel less stressed and like less kind of like, anxious when we are in that moment or the moments leading up to like a new moon or a full moon, because we understand like, hey, generally like during this time we're going to feel X, Y, and Z. So we had a full moon in Scorpio like last week, and that was one about a lot of like hidden truths and karma and the past. And this one was a tough one for Scorpios. A lot of them like left their jobs, like it was just a recognition of also like kind of like things that have been happening at work that really need to come to light, about power struggles and dynamics and also finances too. I had a lot of clients like book time with me, or just like my like monthly clients that are just saying like, oh my gosh, I just learned this thing about like this partner that I was working with or a co-founder that I didn't know related to like money, or I've had these like bank issues, like it's just, and me telling them like, hey, this is like actually quite normal collectively, but also I see how it shows up for you specifically because of your birth chart, and your business's birth chart gives people a lot of peace. So I hope that by you knowing the full moon in Capricorn is coming on July 10th and the career globe portal is going to be in September 25th, can give you an inkling, an idea of like when to expect some career changes and shifts. Okay, let me see if there are any questions in here. Okay. Jennifer, I use Placidus. There are many ways to read a birth chart. None of them like are better, although some astrologers, there's a reason why we choose the ones we choose, and I use Placidus. I really like that one. Summer says, I have a business I started this year. Congratulations. And then Sonia, podcast. Love to hear it. Yes, my podcast was like that too. It was like, you need to start a podcast. And I was like, do I really? And it was one of those things where I never kind of like got like, let's say like sponsors for it and like made into a really big thing, like what people do typically with podcasts, but it really helped me to cultivate and develop my voice in my business, and that was the main purpose of it. And it also is a great place for me to just like put information, share information as a repository, and just like link out to people. So in that way, it's been really, really helpful. Okay, so let's talk about Saturn returns and what does it mean for Saturn to be shifting signs. So you are experiencing a Saturn return if you were born during these dates. Another easy way to figure this out is to look at your free career astrology report and see if your Saturn is in Pisces or in Aries. Pisces or in Aries. So just take a look there. And these are not exhaustive dates. There are other dates as well, but I just pulled some of the more like recent ones. But if you see Saturn and Aries in your chart or Saturn and Pisces, that means that you are currently or very soon going through your Saturn return. And again, a Saturn return happens in your late 20s, early 30s, mid to late 50s, and mid to late 80s. And it is a time that can feel existential, but really it's the universe checking in with you and making sure that you are on the right path. Now, this is for individuals. At the collective level, when Saturn shifts into a new sign, this is going to be where we're going to be focused on getting more disciplined. This is where we're going to have a lot of invitations to kind of get better in this area because Saturn is the planet of discipline, of maturity, of hard work. All right, let me see. Okay. See. Yes, and yeah, I'm in that Saturn and Aries. Yes, started to feel it last year. Okay. Sorry, Rin. Yes, don't worry. It counts too. So if you have Saturn in Aries or Saturn in Pisces in your if you see it in your chart properties, you count as well. But I just pulled some of like the most recent dates. So one of the reasons why we tend to feel a change right before we go into a Saturn return is because we go through something called a reverse nodal return. So, over the last few years, we've already been learning lessons related to Aries about advocating for yourself, like about leadership and creativity. And it is just like different, kind of like almost like let's say like different parts of a map are being lit up or like different parts of like let's say like a board game or like a bingo card are being like lit up. Different areas of your life are being focused on, and specifically we're about to enter Saturn and Aries, and we've already been exploring these themes over the last few years. And these are the dates for Saturn and Aries. So May 24th, this Saturday to September 1st. Then Saturn will move back into Pisces. And then it'll go back into Aries through February 13th, 2026 through April 12th, 2028. So what we are leaving behind is Saturn in Pisces. So collectively, we have all been learning how to connect with our intuition more, how to have more faith and trust in a specific area of our life. So let's say, Pisces shows up in your fourth house. That means that you've had to really focus on more about like emotional regulation and health, like the past, let's say things related to like your family as well. And with Saturn moving from Pisces to Aries, the shift is moving from, like, let's say, focusing on cultivating your intuition, your creativity, getting more imaginative, and also recognizing where you've been delusional in your life, where you've been avoidant. I've definitely felt that because Saturn, again, is that planet of responsibility. And in Pisces, Pisces can be very dreamy. It can kind of like want to be not of this world. Saturn is asking us to really ground our intuition into reality and recognize where we've kind of been a little bit too head in the clouds in our lives. Then, as Saturn moves into Aries, we are focusing on where we need more momentum in our lives as a collective, where we need to advocate for ourselves. And again, collectively, we've all been learning these lessons of how to be, let's say, more assertive and self advocacy and moving into a more of a high agency mindset. And this is going to continue over the next few years. And specifically, this could look like a couple different things. It could look like starting a side hustle. It could look like starting a business. It could look like just like taking a more leadership role in your line of work. It could look like changing the way you lead in your business. And it could be something more subtle. It could be managing like your creative output. It could be recognizing where anger is within you and transmuting it, and learning how to kind of transmute some of your more volatile emotions. And specifically, where like Aries shows up in your chart is going to be where that focus is centered around. So let's say you don't have Saturn in Aries, you're not going through your Saturn return. Then let's say your Aries is in the eighth house. That means you're probably going to be focusing a lot over the next few years on healing and shadow work and feeling and finding more ways of being empowered. For those who will embark on their Saturn return, you will kind of just start to kind of like crack open the possibilities for yourself and kind of if you're in a job that isn't a good fit, you're starting to think about what will be a good fit. Is it maybe doing something on my own? Is it trying to find a job that gives me more autonomy, and how can I act with more autonomy? And with a Saturn return, there's three different components because it's roughly about 3 years. That first year is about awareness. The second year is about exploration of like, okay, I'm aware of what's not working anymore, and let me try some new things out. And the third year is a very much so an integration year of anchoring down, of exploring, like, okay, I've gone through a lot of changes, a lot of ups and downs over the last few years. And as the dust is settling, like, what do I feel called to? So that's year one, two, and three. And this is for people who have their Saturn in Pisces or in Aries. At the collective level, we will also experience this. Like even if you don't have Saturn in Pisces or Aries, we'll move through these three tranches, because there's like the beginning phase where you're just like kind of recognizing this area of your life that needs more leadership from you, like needs more direction, needs more momentum, needs more like action and more intention and awareness from you. And then the second year, you kind of explore what that looks like and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, being more assertive in this area of your life. And then in year three, like really being like, oh, I feel good. For me specifically, Aries shows up in my third house. And what that means is like really finding ways to activate my voice and to find the right ways to activate my voice as well. So I've been working on this for the last few years. It'll be really interesting over the next three how I'm going to really refine that. And I'm really looking forward to it as well. Because especially for me, it is hard for me to really advocate for myself in conflict. Like I'm not really good at being in conflict and like kind of talking through things. And I know that over the next few years, I'm going to develop and cultivate that skill of having hard conversations. And even in my content, delivering news, whether it's a workshop or like social media posts that maybe people like may not like, but it's really important to share, to like not sugarcoat it, but also not be savage. Find balance. Okay, so again, Saturn in Pisces was about trusting intuition, it's about creativity, imagination, and understanding where we've been kind of delusional in our lives and moving away from that. And also breaking free from addictions. Like, what are you doing to self soothe that isn't healthy? We'll take a moment to pause. I'll check to see like what comments we have in here. At least Saturn and Pisces, I don't look forward to the next one. Honestly, the second one is a lot better than the first one. And he says, I started my own business last August, got laid off last March. I'm struggling a bit to get good footing. Yeah, so Saturn and Aries sharing about that. 1,000% prenodal return with Pisces in Northwood, which is my 10th house. You're currently going through your nodal return like right now. Mars is in Aries. Pisces sits in my 11th house. 11th house is all about like being unique, finding the ways that you can help others, and really understanding that you just do things differently. Christina says, my Saturn is square right now. Saturn, Capricorn at 0 degrees. I'm in nodal return as well, conjunct my sun and my moon. Lots of things happening. I love that. Aries in the second house. Ooh, that's all about, yes, long-term financial goals and just perhaps also separating like finances and self-worth and knowing that you're worthy of all the things that you want and that success is not always going to be tied to how much like you're making. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Moving on. Okay. So Saturn and Aries, being more assertive, advocating for ourselves, creativity, following our specific vision for the life we want to live, cultivating patience. That's a really big one because Saturn is really a planet of like hey, step by step, action by action, like putting in the work. But Aries is very impatient. So Saturn being in Aries is teaching us how to be patient. And it's also teaching us how we can be better leaders in small ways and big ways and managing our anger. Those are going to be really important things as well. Lisa's like, I don't like patience. It's going to be important. I know. I don't like that as well. North Node and Jupiter are in Aries. Amazing. Yeah. So you went through your nodal return, Juju. That has ended, and you're just going to be kind of completing some of these lessons as Saturn moves into Aries. Aubrey says Aries also in the ninth house with my North Node. So you've been going through a lot of things. I wouldn't be surprised during the time you went back to school, or you like moved abroad because the ninth house it's about like belief systems. It's about like traveling abroad, like moving abroad. Yeah. Okay. So let's see where we are in the Saturn return timeline. So Saturn in Aries, we're about to enter kind of like year one, that awareness. So I like to call like that first year like a tower moment. If you're familiar with tarot, the tower card is about like the breakdown so that something new can come through. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that is just like change needs to happen so something new can come through. And then my Saturn in Pisces, you're anchoring, you're in year three, you're finishing up. And when Saturn moves into Aries on Saturday, up until like, I think it was like September, you're going to have a bit of a respite, a rest. Things are going to feel like a lot easier. There's like more clarity. And then we're going to finish things out for like another like 6 to 8 months. And then we'll end that season of life for you. So I know, very exciting. So all my Saturn and Pisces friend, you are ending, and my Saturn in Aries, you are beginning things. Okay, so we're gonna do some journaling exercises right now. And I want to know, how have you strengthened your, oh, it's supposed to be intuition, spacing, over the last few years? And what are some of the most important lessons you've learned the last 2 years related to identity, confidence, and self-advocacy? So taking some time to journal here. Catherine, this hits my fifth house. Generally excited for my first ever Sun return. I'm so excited for you because the fifth house is all about like creativity, about developing confidence. It's like inner child healing, finding more joy and pleasure. And it says Saturn in Pisces in my first house, Aries in my second house, currently unemployed and worried about what Saturn moving into Aries means for my finances. So when Saturn is moving into Aries and your second house is in Aries, that really is like an opportunity for you to really kind of like assert yourself and kind of like taking the lead in your own financial literacy journey. It is going to be an opportunity for you to really build like more financial stability for yourself and to really be patient with that as well and to be kind with yourself. Because with the Saturn and Pisces, like, it's in your first house, you've been doing a lot of identity work and now you're integrating this identity work. So it's going to affect like how you want to make like your money, how you're going to be. I think you said you had a business, like running your business, those types of things. Let me see what else did I mean. Okay. Bettina says, I also have Aries in the third house, but also in Moon and Mars. So you'll find that if, let's say, you have an Aries moon, you've already gone through a lot over the last few years and understanding how to manage your emotions and kind of like processing anger. And with Saturn and Aries, you're going to be continuing that lesson, but in a more subtle way, as well as advocating for yourself and learning how to refine your voice. There's always something to be learned. Christina, that is so right. Putting in some real work the next 2.5 years and you'll come out like better than coming in. Yes. I totally agree. I totally agree. Lucy says Saturn and Pisces in my ninth house, Aries in my 10th, also your sun and 11th. My twin and I are both on this call wondering what the heck is going to happen in now. I think you have to take more of a leadership role in like your career. Could be starting like a business, maybe like with your twin. You've probably been, it's like a lot of continuing themes because the North Node was in Aries over the last 2 years. So you've already been working on like really like finding your own way for success. And with like Saturn in Aries, it's just adding that extra emphasis of like, hey, like this is who you are, make it known to others and especially um, professionally. Oh, great. Just quit my job 3 months ago to start a business. Wonderful. And for those who are starting businesses, know that your business also has a birth chart and you can put it through your Saturn.com and get your business to be like a persona in branding and marketing. That's like my line of work before becoming an astrologer. We develop personas for like inanimate things, like a business, like a brand, and also like customer profiles too. Like, oh, our ideal like customer persona and profile will look like this. And when you put your business information into your Saturn.com, you are going to be able to see, oh, like if I was talking to my business as a person, who would they be like? What would they be like? And it's also the type of person that you need to be so that your business can really thrive and be successful. Simone has said it's been a little bit hairy. Americas, connecting my intuition through yoga and practice using vibration from powerful stones. I love that. Saturn and Pisces, Annie. So that means like your Saturn return is ending and like Venus in Aries means like over the last few years like you've been changing a lot in terms of like how you take action and also the people that you connect with and with Saturn in Aries over the next like few months and then over the next few years once it actually stations there you'll be learning like a lot more about the right people to connect with and like the different visions that you've had for, let's say, your own healing because it's in the 12th house, and also just like around work as well. So Annie says, when do you think I should the birth date? Okay, so the birth date is really dependent on you. It's like whatever feels like intuitively right. It could be when you registered your EIN, your LLC, you're starting an Instagram account, resignation letter at work, first client, first dollar made, when you open your bank account. It could be so many of these things. It could be something that's a very specific digital timestamp or something where you just like were at home, you're like, today is the day, and it's like roughly around like 4:30 p.m. or something like that. It's really up to you. Rin says Pisces in the seventh house, Aries in sixth. My wife is in her second return. I'm in some weird middle aged place. Yes. Um, let's see. Oh, I know. ChatGPT, like I would say like ChatGPT is very helpful. I use ChatGPT and Gemini all the time to be like a thought partner to like kind of talk back and forth about certain things. But if you don't have a really strong understanding of astrology, like it hallucinates a lot and it's always required to give you an answer. So it's really, really important that you learn astrology to like a certain level so you know when it's incorrect because it does things incorrectly all the time like different like transits like where we're in like you know different dates it'll interpret things incorrectly as well but it's also something I'm building like the V2 of yoursaturn.com so that we can use chat gpt and all these like AI things in like a better way so stay tuned that's currently something that I am working on it doesn't know how to count I know, I know. It can be really confusing, but yeah, be careful when you're using any of these like AI things, just because it can give you like the wrong answer. And it's best to get a reading from an established astrologer so that you have those insights. You're like, okay, I know exactly like this is where like these different planets, this is what it means. So if you are using one of these things, that you have more background knowledge. And he says, I got the expanded astrology book for myself. I'd love to do it for my business. Oh, yes, it'll be really, really helpful. Gabrielle, Said I started my business in 2021, actually, lots of ups and downs, but I definitely feel a change and need to formalize and elevate. My Saturn is in Pisces, third house. So much activation of your voice and really speaking your truth into reality and trusting your intuition and speaking about, like, oh, I got this intuitive download. And another thing I wanted to know, especially for Gabrielle, you started your business in 2021. It could be very possible that you have another date. So I have a date of when I started my business back in 2019. But then I have another date for yoursaturn.com when I started commissioning the work to build that website and that tech stack. And that is another date that I use to help guide me. Elise says Saturn return also made me start a business, first as a financial consultant, then a spiritual coach, and now it's full blown holistic therapy, doing some work in an office to get some stable money. I love that for you. Yeah. So as we move through, a Saturn return, it's very, very like a transformative because a lot of us do end up like starting a business. One of the key things about Saturn and Pisces and ending, a lot of people will have finished a spiritual awakening, which happens already during a Saturn return a lot of the times, but this one's a deeper one. And then those going through a Saturn in Aries, they may feel a strong desire to start a business or start a side hustle. And honestly, we're moving in the direction for like work and the workforce of the multi hyphenate age. And what that means is generating income from multiple like places, not just relying on your job to give you money. Because as we know, there is no job security these days. Right. Let's see. I'm not going to be able to answer all questions. Does the date I register the website count as the birthday for the business if I haven't registered an LLC yet? Yes, yes. It's whatever you think is like the start of your business. Let's see. We got a lot of comments going on in here. Okay. Mm. Congratulations, Sarah, on quitting. Amazing. Oh, bumped a little bit earlier. Saturn and Pisces in the 12th and quit with a sticky situation this March. I love that for you, especially during eclipse season. That was a big one. Okay, so um I have more information coming up with a Saturn return slash Saturn workshop part two, that is next week in the membership. And that's when we're going to have an opportunity for like specific dates for you to like change jobs, get a new job, start a business, like where this change will be specifically happening for you, whether it's, your Saturn return or, just seeing where Aries shows up in your chart. And of course, it's kind of like, yes, you're going through a lot of changes, like with a Saturn return, with even maybe a shift for you for Saturn moving into Aries. So what does that look like? What other career paths can you explore? What's the difference between the first and the second Saturn return? And also how to really thrive instead of survive during this time. Because I definitely was fighting like my Saturn return like all the way through. I was just like, I just want to get out of this. I don't want to be in it. I just like want to have a job. I just want to like be stable again. Like it was just like a lot of stress for me. And had I just like allowed myself to receive what was coming through instead of just like wanting to get out, because like the more you want to get out, the more you're going to feel stuck in it. But allowing yourself to relax and just see for what it is and enjoying this specific season of your life is going to be so much more helpful. And I'll have specific things for your astrology that you can look at to help you be more in like a thrive state instead of feeling like you just are surviving, but also giving you some options of other career paths that you can explore as well. Okay. So I have time for some extra questions here. I'm going to stop the recording.